Hello bearded bee people, welcome back to the B&K's Bees channel. Last week I did a video on more spring inspections on 3 hives in this yard, and one of the hives wasn't doing very well. One of you, and I won't call you out, but I was a little disappointed to see, one of you had a question or a suggestion and then you deleted the comment. I certainly don't look at adding suggestions or comments or any type of analysis as a bad thing. So please don't delete those types of comments. I would have gladly replied and opened a discussion on the topic. And the question was, wouldn't it be a good idea to add a frame of brood and nurse bees to that hive to help them along? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. The reason that I didn't automatically think of that was this is my potential grafting stock out here, and I try to sell Michigan survivors. So out here generally I don't help them along at all. So if they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, I keep a close eye on them out here, but I don't usually aid them along in the process because I don't want to sell those bees to my customers where they really need to keep an eye on them at all points throughout the spring. I want bees that come out, ready to go and vigorous and build up quickly. But that being asked or being commented made me think, all right, well, it's a valid point, and a lot of you guys aren't so cutthroat in your decision making, and you'd really like to help your hive succeed. So this video is dedicated to that. How to help your hive along if they're struggling, if they're diminishing in population. What can you do? How can you rectify that situation, kind of bolster their chances, and watch your hive kind of rebound and still have a good year? So the first thing, as that I hope subscriber commented, is that you can add some bees. You can add some bees and you can add some brood, and that's true. I have more than once on this channel said that if you have the opportunity to go to one uniform size for all your boxes, do it. It makes everything easy. What you're about to see is an example of what happens when you have different size boxes. So if your bees are dwindling, your population doesn't look good, you need to add some bees. So you find a hive that isn't struggling in that way, and you have to find a frame of capped brood with nurse bees on it. Now, will those bees fight with the bees that you're, putting them into? No, nurse bees have no sense of hive identity. They're there to take care of the brood that they're surrounded by, and at the point where they graduate to being a forager bee, they'll go out and figure out that they're one hive among many, and then their defensive characteristics kind of kick in. But at the point in their lives when they're a nurse bee, you can pretty easily transfer them from hive to hive, and they'll just keep doing what they're doing. So how do you make sure that there are nurse bees and only nurse bees on that frame? Well, what you can do is take the frame from the box that you're taking from, put it in a different box a few yards away. I mean, it can really be pretty close, but you'll see kind of more of the effect if you move them a few yards away and leave them there for, I wouldn't say many hours, especially if it's not a warm day, but leave them there for an hour or two in a different box, not subject to the light and all that. But the forager bees will go out and go back to the original hive. The nurse bees will stay there on that frame. So after an hour or two, you go back out there and there's still bees covering that brood. You've got a nice frame of capped brood and nurse bees that are ready to go help the hive that needs it. So we did that. This isn't the greatest brood frame of all, but it's certainly going to help them. These bees aren't very happy with me right now because They've been sitting outside of their hive for a while. But they'll be in their new home in just a second. This little patch of bees. If they did make it, would have been by the skin of their teeth, and their build-up period would have been long and arduous. So we are helping them out. Now we're going to put a medium frame into a deep nuke. But that's okay. They'll draw some excess wax on the bottom of it to make it a deep, essentially. And when you move it back into a medium box at some point in the future, you can cut that off. Alright, so I have to find the queen. I don't have to. I'd like to see... Alright, there she is. Never mind. A big, beautiful white dot. Just making sure they're worth putting the bees in here. If there was no queen, I wouldn't even bother. And I know that there's not a queen on here because when I grabbed this from the original hive, I set this first good-looking brood frame off to the side and kept going through that box until I found the queen. So there is no queen on here. Sorry for the phone sounds. I always forget to turn those down when I'm doing videos. Alright, now, in a few days, that capped brood will start to hatch. The nurse bees that are in there will help with keeping the brood warm and being more bees be able to keep more brood warm than they were able to with that little handful of bees. So that will allow the queen to kind of be more free with how many eggs per day she's laying. So that helps in one sense. Now, if you've got a really bad case of chronic bee paralysis virus or deformed wing virus, or obviously anything more serious than that, nosema or foul brood, this stuff is not to rectify those situations, not at all. In those cases, they are usually dependent upon your stance as far as treatments, and I'm not going to get into that today. Today's is just how do you help a hive that's dwindling in population and that needs a little boot in the rear. So we added the bees and the brood. The next thing to do will be to feed. We're going to feed a lot of thin syrup. We're going to keep feeding the pollen substitute. They're going to get as much food as they need up into the nectar flow. They need it. The brood needs it. And if we could do a side-by-side somehow of hives of similar size and similar levels of distress, feed one and don't feed the other, and you'll see the difference. So we're going to feed. We added bees. We're going to make sure that the entrance size is about as small as can be to give them the best opportunity to defend it, because they do have some food stores in there and they are an easy robbing target. And we're going to keep them into a manageable box size until the population is high enough to where they can be graduated to a full box. So we're going to keep an eye on them, and I'll keep doing videos on them. But I suspect this will help. I want to thank, the original commenter who deleted that comment that caused me to get out here and do this video for you guys. I also would like to say, if you guys have any ideas for videos you'd like to see, I make these videos for you. I'd really like to hear them. There are no stupid ideas or stupid questions. So if you have an idea and you'd like to see it, you want to send it to me, I'll put it on the docket. So hopefully you don't have any hives that need this help, but at some point you inevitably will. And I hope this helps. So get out there and have some fun with your bees. And as I always say, thanks for watching.